Hi, I'm Diana, one of the founding members of Wild Hearts. And as a Wild Hearts member, we try to do some little bit of good each and every day. And today I'm going to talk to you about one way you might do that, and that's by being a more courteous and self-aware driver. I'm going to start this by giving you three personal examples from my life that kind of give you three different driver perspectives. So number one, this happened about 25 or 30 years ago. My kids had been visiting their grandparents for a couple of days, and their grandparents were driving them back up the 90 miles up the mountain to where we lived. And as very loving grandparents, they were a little overly cautious when their grandkids were in the car. So they would often go 10 or more miles under the speed limit. They were aware enough to use the right lane, which we called the slow lane back then. But nonetheless, a lot of drivers were backed up behind them, and they were impatient and angry as they sped around and passed the car. My kids, being in the back seat, would see them. They would notice that they would raise their fists or say some unkind words or give scowls as they passed by. And they were embarrassed. They tried to pass the time and make it fun by putting making a big sign that said, "Please save us," and they would hold it up as drivers passed them by. Luckily for them, no one stopped to save them. But the interesting thing about all this is the grandparents were in the front seat. They were totally oblivious to the angry drivers passing them by. They were totally unaware of what the kids were doing in the backyard. In the back seat. They were in their own conversation. They were driving slowly and safely up the mountain to us. This is one example of unaware but cautious drivers. Next, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to take it to example number two. We're going to go forward 15 years. Granny has planned and prepared the last 15 years for the time in her life when she felt she was no longer a safe driver. She shared with a couple of close family members, and she made preparations to be ready, have her mindset ready, and have her life ready. So what she did was she grounded herself. She no longer drove. She gave her car away, and she planned for alternative transportation. In doing this, she provided an example for so many people in her life about being a responsible driver. She made sure that she, because of her age and her driving ability, was no longer on the road, which can be a very hard thing to do. And she was a beacon of light to many of us. Example number three. Just a couple years ago, I was on a road trip with my daughter, Amy, who was driving, and she was telling me with great enthusiasm about how her perspectives changed in life after becoming a yogi. And she's telling me how it's been such a paradigm shift. She sees the world with more kindness and peace. And she was speaking very serenely, softly, and sweetly. And I was so inspired by her words, and I was enthralled. I was engaged totally with the conversation. And then she looked up and looked in her rearview mirror, and this slew of profanity came out, beginning with something like, "Why are you on my blippity blickety blank?" and ending with, "You SOB." I was in shock. I looked at her, and then I burst into laughter because I realized the incongruence of the words she had just been speaking to me and the words coming out of her mouth at that time and the action she was taking. She looked at me like, "What are you laughing at?" And then she became aware, and we were both rolling. We were both laughing. And this opened the door for us to have this amazing conversation about being aware of yourself and also how hard it is to make changes in your life and to take that into the actions and the words out of your mouth. It was really an amazing wake up call for her and for me. And I'm telling you this, I'm telling all this to you because this is an example of 3 drivers. And I have been each of those drivers at many times in my life. I have been the unaware, oblivious driver at times. I have been the responsible, well-planned driver. And I have also been the frustrated, angry driver. I'm betting that you probably have too. What this brings me to is this, is that we are all human beings. We're on this path together. We're doing the best we can. Sometimes life happens, things happen, and we aren't our best version. We've all been there. As a driver, I'm making the choice to have a different perspective, to be a kinder version, to be more empathetic and responsible and aware. So I'm going to be aware of my surroundings. I'm going to be aware and focused on what I'm doing as a driver, and I'm going to have a kinder perspective to others. I want us all to get where we're going in the safest manner possible. So I've written a blog about this. I have 5 specific things I changed in my life so that I had a more peaceful, less stressful drive. And the link is right below here. I hope that you will take a look at it. And I thank you so much for listening and wish you the best day ever. Thank you.